I am the laziest web designer that you'll ever meet. I remember when I first started my web design business, I would try to follow all the conventional best practices that web designers have when it came to their onboarding process. I remember thinking to myself okay, I have to go out and create customized proposals, and then when I jump into the website, I have to create a low fidelity wireframe, then a high fidelity wireframe, and then development, and then all this jazz and stuff like that. And honestly, I really hated all of it. Even the thought of manually creating an invoice and sending that out to a client in order to get paid bothered me. I remember thinking to myself imagine if Amazon had to create an invoice every time that you wanted to buy something off of their website. That'd be insane. They would go out of business by the end of tomorrow type thing. And so I always thought to myself, how can I structure my web design business in a way that would work like Amazon, where it's just as frictionless as possible for the clients to pay and get the results that they want. And so over the past few years, I worked really hard to refine my web design onboarding process. And today I'm going to share it with you. So I'm going to walk through my entire web design onboarding process. And then afterwards, I'm actually going to give you a few tips for helping you design your own onboarding process as well. So let's go ahead and jump into the whiteboard and talk about it. Let's click over here. Perfect. So my web design onboarding process, it all begins at the end of the sales call. So we're going from the sales call onwards. So sales call is step number one. And I am assuming that I have closed the web design client and I am ready to collect payment and start the onboarding process. So the very first thing that I do is I collect payment. So collect payment. And this is super important to me. I collect payment via a checkout link, a static checkout link. So collect payment via a static checkout link. And again, this goes back to the Amazon thing that I was talking about earlier, where if Amazon had to create manual invoices to collect payments, they would go out of business tomorrow. And it's much more frictionless and easier to scale your business when you just have a static checkout link. And so a lot of people tell me, well, I'm not sure how much I'm going to end up charging for the website. How do I just have a static link if I don't even know what the price is going to be? And I ask them, well, what if you did know what the price was going to be? And this is what I really tell web designers and I recommend web designers do. And it may not be for everyone, but I highly recommend that every web designer out there productize their web design service and have one core offer that you're offering over and over and over again. By productizing your web design service and by having that one core offer, you already know what the price is going to be ahead of time. So even before the sales call, even before collecting payment, I think it's important to note out that I have a productized service. So I'm going to write that up here. So productized service. And this productized service caters to one specific niche. So one specific niche or one target market. And by doing that, it allows me to know the price ahead of time of what it is that going to deliver. And so I don't have to worry about manually creating an invoice each time. I already know what the price is going to be. So I already have a static checkout link created that is going to collect the payment for me. Okay, so that's step number one. I collect payment via the static checkout link. And I usually do this in one of two ways. So at the end of the sales call, sometimes on the sales call, I'll actually just have them read out the card number while I type it in for them, just to collect payment then and there, because I don't like leaving kind of these openings where they're able to kind of ghost me and stuff like that. But sometimes I do, send them the link manually and then they check out and pay it once we get off the Zoom call as well. And normally, like nine times out of 10, they do end up paying it via that method. But that one time out of 10, sometimes I try to avoid that. So sometimes I do collect payment just directly there on the Zoom call, but totally up to you. Cool. So after I've collected payment, the next thing that I do, let's go ahead and put this back in red, is I have them fill out a web design questionnaire. So I have them fill out a questionnaire. And I'm pretty sure I spelled that wrong, but hopefully you all know what I mean. So I have them fill out a questionnaire. And the important thing to me about this as well is that I do not manually send out a questionnaire. This is all automated within the software that I use. And the software that I use to do all of this is a software known as SPP, or Service Provider Pro. So Service Provider Pro. And you can check it out at spp.co. So .co. If you run a web design or if you run a productized web design business, I highly recommend checking out this software. Like I could not live without it. It is absolutely perfect for running a standard productized business. So I use it for everything I'm doing here. So SPP, it allows me to create the static checkout link that I use. And then after the client pays, they automatically get an email, and even on the screen on the thank you page, a little button right there that shows them where they could go to fill out the questionnaire. So the questionnaire is automatically sent to them as soon as they make a payment. And my questionnaire is only about 11 questions long, and I try to keep this super simple because again, it comes back to the productized service. My web design service is very streamlined and it's targeting one specific niche. So I actually already know a lot about my target market, which makes it so that my web design questionnaire is super easy to fill out. Most clients tell me it takes them like 5 to 10 minutes to fill out, which I love because I want to make this as frictionless as possible for my web design clients. And maybe in another video, I'll go over exactly the questions that I have in my questionnaire. But that's the second step that I do. So questionnaire. The next thing that I do is I just send them an email letting them know that I've collected everything that I need. So, email right here. And now this email is semi-automated in that I use a template called kind of like a snippet in order to send this out. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in purple maybe right here. So this is a template. So again, everyone pretty much gets the same messages from me all the time. So in spp.co, I already have email templates, and this allows me to communicate with my client as well. It creates a client portal for them where they log in and they're able to communicate with me and everything. So I send them an email template just letting them know, hey, thank you for submitting payment. Thank you for filling out the questionnaire and uploading all your information that we need, such as like your logos, photos, videos, etc. All that's done in the questionnaire. I've collected what I needed. I'm going to go ahead and get started on the website. This is where you can expect to hear from me. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out via the portal, via email, via phone call, whatever methods that you use. And then I get started on the website, and that is literally the end of my onboarding process. Like it is that simple. And then the next time the client hears from me, it's when I'm showing them the website that they designed. And then from there, we're usually jumping on a Zoom call to get it connected, give them a quick crash course of how to use the software that I used to build the website, connect the domain, stuff like that. Super simple. So my onboarding process is literally a three-step process. Collect the payment via static checkout link, have them fill out a questionnaire. On that questionnaire, they also upload stuff like their logo, photos, videos. And then I simply email them using a template letting them know I've collected everything and I'm about to get started on the process. So that's my web design process. Now, what I want to actually do is go over some strategies for you to help you develop your own web design process. And the first strategy that I want to talk about is the EAD method. Let's go ahead and write that in blue here. EAD. And so this is an acronym that stands for eliminate, automate, or delegate. So this is what I went through when I first started my web design process, and I continue to go over it through to refine to where it is that I'm now, where I have something that's super streamlined, easy to do, and doesn't take up much time on my end. So what I recommend everyone doing is to go on a piece of paper and write out your current onboarding process. And you could even go further than that. You could talk about your onboarding process and you could talk about your web design process, every single step that you do. And when I say like every single step that you do, I literally mean like every single thing that you do. Write it out here. And so let me go ahead and write out an example from my times when I remember when I first started trying to do like all the best practices. So again, this example, we start off like with a Zoom call. We close the client. And maybe in your current web design process, you're doing something like this. So close the client, or maybe you don't close the client. Maybe let's even erase that. And let's say it's something like this. So you're on a Zoom call, and then after the Zoom call, you create a proposal. And then after you send the proposal, you jump on another Zoom call to try to close the client. And now you close the client. And after you close the client, you're manually creating an invoice. And then you're sending that over to the client, waiting for them to get paid. Once you get paid, now you're creating or sending out a questionnaire via email. Air via email, waiting for them to fill that out. Once they get it filled out, maybe the client lets you know. So client lets you know once done. So once they're done, they let you know. After done, you send them another email, maybe asking for, photos and videos. Maybe this email has like a Google Drive on it. So here we'll put like Google Drive, and this is where you collect photos and videos, etc. And then they input, client uploads photos, videos to that Google Drive, photos, videos, etc. And then you send out another email letting them know, got all the photos and videos, that's good to go. We'll go ahead and stop there for this example. So pretend this is your current web design process. Again, whatever your web design process is, write it down on a piece of paper, every single step that you currently do. And then you're going to go through this EAD process, which stands for eliminate, automate, and delegate. And literally what you're doing is you're going through your current process and seeing what is it that I could eliminate, or what is it that I could automate, or what is it that I could delegate. So if you could eliminate steps on this, do it. And if you can't eliminate, find a way to automate it with some sort of software. And if you can't automate it, and if you're in position to do so, see if you could delegate it to someone else. So with this example, I'm going to go through it. So the first thing that I will do is I look at the proposals here, and let me make this maybe purple. So proposals here, I think to myself, all right, how can I eliminate proposals? I'm going to create a productized service so I don't have to create a proposal because I'm no longer offering custom web design work. So to me, this is an elimination. So elimination. And as a result of being able to eliminate the proposals, I'm now able to eliminate the second Zoom call because now I'm able to give all the information that I need to on the first Zoom call because I already know what it is I'm selling with the exact price point because again, I created that productized service. So I just eliminated 2 steps right there. Let's see, manually created an invoice. So this is kind of like now I'm able to automate this step because I have that productized service, I'm no longer having to create a custom invoice for a custom amount of money. I already have a static checkout link. So for this invoice, I'm going to call it as automate because I'm creating a static checkout link, a static link. So that saves me some time right there. And then sends out the questionnaire via email. So most people usually have this like on a Google Doc or Word document or whatever it is, and they send that out via email. To me, I like using software to automate as much as possible. So I'm going to circle that. I'm going to go out, find a software like SPP or find out a software like maybe Hello Bonsai. There's a bunch out there. Pick your favorite one, automate this step. So this is going to be another one that I'm going to automate. So automate. Let's see what else is here. So client lets you know what you're done. So because I'm using software for this, the client no longer has to let me know once they're finished uploading the documents because the software is going to let me know as soon as they're done doing so. So I could eliminate this. So I'm going to circle this and eliminate. Let's see, email with Google Drive. Again, I'm using the software to collect the stuff. So in that same questionnaire, I'm going to go ahead and set it up so they could upload photos, videos, and logos to it. So I'm eliminating the Google Drive. So that is gone as well. Client no longer has to let me know once they finish uploading stuff. And then email, this is something that we could delegate here. So first thing we could do is try to automate it if we can, but we can't necessarily automate every single step of the stuff, but we could get as close as possible. So the things that I like to do here is use the templates. So if I know I'm going to write something out more than once to every single one of my clients. Like I hate writing the same thing over and over and over again. If I write it down once, I'm saving it somewhere as a template, hopefully in the software, and I'm using that template so I never have to create stuff from scratch ever again. Like I really take this stuff like to the extreme of saving my time. So maybe I'll use a template, but maybe here this is a good place to delegate. So maybe you have a virtual assistant or executive assistant, administrative assistant, whatever you want to call them, but they're able to help take some of the workload off. And so they're a part of your process and they're the ones emailing the clients whatever message that they need to be. So I use templates here, but this could also be a good place to delegate. Cool. So that is an example of the EAD process. It's something that I would recommend every single person do for their web design onboarding process and really any process that you have. And the reason that I'm so adamant about this stuff is because to me, and this is like an old cliche, but I've learned that time is the most valuable asset of any asset out there in the world because it is the one asset that we do not get back. And so I personally love protecting my time and utilizing it to do what it is that I love to do. And so anything that, in my opinion, is taking away my time from the stuff I want to be able to do is something that I want to fix. And so that's why I'm super adamant for most web designers to create a process that saves you as much time as possible so that you could go out there and spend the time, the limited amount of time that we have here on this earth to do whatever it is that you want to do. Like for me, I love basketball. I want to play basketball. I coach basketball. I want to watch basketball. That is something that I love to do. And I wouldn't be able to do it if it wasn't for my web design business and how productized it is and how I'm able to just take the time that I need to go do that stuff because that is what I love to do. So that's my little spiel for today. Really systematize your onboarding process, get it dialed in, save your time because again, time is the most valuable asset that we have. Hopefully this video helped you out. My name is Fernando. Thanks so much for checking it out. Go ahead and hit the like, comment, subscribe, all that jazz that I've been told that I should say at the end of the videos. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks so much for watching. Catch you later.